Hello everyone, and welcome to eJamming. This video is intended to walk you through some of the basic functions of eJamming in order to get you jamming quickly and with minimal frustration. Before we dive into it, this video assumes you've already got your audio interface, or ASIO for all as the case may be, configured and installed correctly, and you have plugged your instrument and headphones into this interface. And remember to close any and all applications that might be using up your internet bandwidth, things like file sharing sites, Skype, or web browsers, and be aware of anyone else on your network who might be using large amounts of bandwidth as well. Okay, that done, I'll show you around the lobby. Now remember, this video will take you over the basic parts of eJamming, and there are a lot of features in the software, so we won't cover them all here, but this should get you started. After you've logged in, which I have already done, the first thing you will notice on the right-hand margin of the screen is the chat area, which is this section here. In this area, outlined in gray, you will see a list of all the users currently logged into the lobby. You can send a message to the whole group here, or you can send a private message to a user by clicking on their username and selecting Start Private Chat from the mini profile. Up across the top of the window are the main navigation tabs. Home takes you to your profile. The Sessions tab deals with all the sessions that are happening in eJamming, and also is where you will go to start a session. The Search tab is the new, greatly enhanced player search functions, and the Help tab is, well, where all the help info is, even this video. So now I'll navigate to the Sessions tab here, which is probably the most important tab in eJamming. Here you can see all the sessions currently in progress, and if you expand a session in the list by clicking on the name of the session, or the disclosure arrow next to it, you can see the details of the session, including all the users who are in that session. Now, if you want to join a session and jam with someone, all you need to do is find a session with an open seat, which you can see in this column here labeled Available Seats, expand the view and hit Join Session. If you've been in a session on an older version of eJamming, you may know enough about the software already to go ahead and join a session. But if you're new, and maybe even if you're not, I'd highly recommend starting a session by yourself to get acquainted with the software first. So let's do that. To start a new session, just click the Start New Session button here at the top of the session list. When you click this button, you will see the Session Setup dialog appear. This dialog allows you to change some of the basic settings in your session, but that's not really something we need to worry about right now. So let's just leave it at the default settings and click Create and Join Session. And here we go. Now, first things first. You should hear yourself playing or talking depending on what you have connected to your audio interface. But you should hear yourself. If you don't, then we'll have to check some things. If you don't hear yourself, open the eJamming Preferences dialog under the File menu on the PC or under the eJamming Audio menu on the Mac and click on the Audio tab. The audio input and output devices are assigned here. These disclosure arrows here will drop down a list of all the audio devices available to eJamming. You will need to select the audio device you want to use from the devices in this list. If you don't see the device you want to use, you will need to double check the installation of your audio hardware. Lots of tips on this can be found in the Help documentation under the Installing Audio Devices heading. So please make sure you have audio input and output devices assigned correctly and installed correctly. If you're experiencing audio problems these assignments will not solve, please look through the other parts of the Help section or send an email to techsupport@ejamming.com. So, let's assume you've got your audio equipment set up correctly and you hear your instrument after creating a session, and go over some of the basic controls you'll need to use for a jam. As the person who created the session, you are the session leader. You will have control over the bulk of the session's functions, and the first and most important control is the session mode control, which is here. Now, there are three distinctly separate modes for an eJamming session. I'm only going to describe them briefly here, because the details of all three modes are available in the other session window videos. Anyway, there are three modes to choose from in an eJamming session: Jam, Sync, and VRS. Jam mode is the default mode of your first eJamming session and gives you almost no audible sync delay, with the trade-off that your jam might not be as tightly in sync as it would be in sync mode. This mode is also only designed for live jamming, which is why the recording features of eJamming have been disabled while the session is in this mode. With sync mode, distance is a factor, but it's the tightest mode of eJamming, which means you can have a perfect jam, but you will have to adapt to the sync delay, which takes some practice if your distance from the other players is significant. And VRS mode isn't about jamming at all. It's a virtual recording studio that allows you to build a song track by track using the entire eJamming community as your studio musicians. But since this is your first session, let's focus on jam mode for now, because it's the easiest way to get started. This area here, with your avatar and username, is called the session seat. Seats are what users occupy in a session. When you want another user in your session, you create a new seat, but we'll get into that in a second.